All right, looks like we're in good shape here. So, welcome to, I don't know if this is I think this is our second analysis call. Yep. All right, so second analysis call. And I got to tell you, I had this analysis literally save my skin this week. And that came from an actual client. And we were trying to get a sales page written for them. And we were trying to outsource to copywriters, and every time the copywriters would send me the copy, I would reject it because it wasn't in tune with ACT. It was just full of platitudes and just like everyone else's. And finally, we're coming down to the deadline, and I decided, okay, I will write the copy myself. I will actually do it to get it done by the deadline. And I thought it was going to be an easy thing because we always rely on OPM, other people's marketing. So I figured, hey, this be a piece of cake. I'll look at the 5 competitors, I'll pull out the best of the best and go to it and add unique mechanism and what have you. And what I found, this was in the roofing industry. I could not believe what I saw in doing the 5 competitors. Every one of them, and this was across the board because I went outside those 5 that were actually their competitors and their niche and their market and their location. I went outside nationally and I found the exact same thing. Every one of the roofing websites is just loaded with platitudes. There's no real meat and potatoes. They're all just saying, we're the best. We've been around since whatever year. And there's really nothing there. There's no unique mechanism. They're not 3-dimensionalizing benefits. They're not even really talking about the benefits. And as I started thinking about it, I'm like, wow, a roof is not really a sexy thing. This is not going to be an easy sell because it's not related to anything. I'm like, what emotion am I going to tap into here? It's like, does your heart really want a roof? No. So that makes it for a pretty hard sell. And, when I went back and the client had actually done the analysis, they had actually gone through the process of ACT. And when I looked at their worksheets from the workbook, I found everything I needed to really craft a killer sales letter out of that material. So it was like, this is just an absolute testament to the ACT program. In doing that, when you get to the creation part, the analysis is really the key. It's knowing exactly what is important, knowing what their beliefs are. And it really made it to where it took me about 2 hours to write the sales letter for them. Had I not had the information out of their analysis, I'd probably still be at it and I'd probably be very frustrated by this point. But it actually made it very easy. And we now have a sales letter for the roofing industry that is like nothing else that's out there. It actually follows the ACT format, and I'll report back and let you guys know how it's going to work out. But I think it's going to absolutely kill it. It ties into, I kind of combine 2 emotions. I put greed in there, and the reason, let me give you a little background about this. The actual client, the segmentation was done perfectly on this project. The segmentation is commercial buildings that have either property owners or property managers managing them. So it's very, very specific. It's very, very lucrative. They were right on the money when they did the segmentation. And knowing that, knowing exactly what it is that's important to those business owners or those property owners, property managers, the one thing is they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose money. It's a business for them. So if they have a leak, this is in the Pacific Northwest where there's a lot of weather. So very likely on a flat roofs are the most dangerous to give way. So knowing that, being able to know that, to write the copy, to key in on that fear and that greed of loss, it really made for a pretty cool sales letter. Yeah, I was tying in, I made a claim that if they don't get their roofs inspected on normal basis, that the insurance companies could actually deny their claims. So the customer ultimately wanted the phone to ring. They want to get them on the phone, and I found two reasons to make the phone ring. One is the free roof inspection, and I tied that into that claim that if you don't have your roof inspected at normal intervals, and I actually went to the industry to find out what those were, and it's every 3 to 5 years you have to have a flat roof documented that it's in good shape, or your insurance company could deny the claim. So here is get them on the phone for the free roof inspection so they don't get their claims denied. And at that point, it gives them a chance to document it and then give them, you know, either an estimate on repairs or make a recommendation for a replacement. Now, if they're the ones that are making this recommendation, chances are they're the ones that are going to get the job. And also, if they make the recommendation in a document that says this roof needs to be replaced, guess what? If they don't replace it, their insurance could deny it on the next storm that hits. So big leverage point there. So not only am I getting them on the phone, I'm getting that locked in that they're actually going to get the job done. The other thing that they told me in the analysis was a lot of their projects come from past roof repairs. So here's a way for them to document and do the repairs and set themselves up for that future sale and getting the next job. So all they have to do now is, once they're in the funnel, is they just put them in a drip campaign so they're top of mind when that repair runs out and they actually need to have that roof replaced. So it gave me all that knowledge and that insight to key in on that. And I didn't see one other roofer that was taking that approach. No mention of roof inspections for flat roofs, nothing of the sort. No way to actually get them on the phone for a free roof inspection. The other thing I did was I used the idea of proof of the marketplace and basically separating them as far as the unique mechanism. I used the unique mechanism of their being the professionals at the particular flat roofs. And that's why they can do it cheaper, because they're not learning on your dime. So again, you know, putting it in there in a way that, like when you say the word because in your copy, you're giving them a reason. So the reason that we're cheaper is not just saying we're the cheapest, that's a platitude. But instead of using that platitude like everyone else, I say we're cheaper because we specialize in this, we know everything about this, we use a material that most people will recommend you use a more expensive material just because they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the experience, and it winds up costing you more. There's absolutely no benefit to the more expensive material, and they just don't know, so they refer it, they think it's better. It's really not. So, you know, because of that, because of our knowledge and our experience, that's why we can get the job cheaper for you. So again, you know, it's making a unique mechanism based on the knowledge that's just not out there. The other thing I talk about is, and again, this comes from the analysis, knowing that there's a 4 to 5 month window in the Pacific Northwest when this job can actually be done correctly. And if you don't do it correctly, it could wind up costing you, could wind up having insurance claims not honored, and it can also void warranties. And another thing I put in there was I went into the warranty. Why our warranties hold up, why we can actually honor a 30-year warranty. And I go into educating them about the warranty actually comes from the manufacturer. If the manufacturer is not involved in the installation, the warranties basically are null and void right from the get-go. So again, the platitudes versus, we have a 30-year warranty. That's, again, a platitude that everyone says. I took it and turned it into a unique mechanism that our warranty actually holds up, where the others may not, because they're not involved with the manufacturers. And I talk about the process. I say the manufacturers actually inspect our prep work before their materials go down, and they are forced to stand behind the warranty because of that. Again, I'm using the because phrase. And on top of all that, I threw another thing in there that, again, makes the phone ring, because one of the objections is a lot of times they don't really have it in the budget to re-roof yet. It's a surprise, or it's a shock, or maybe they weren't ready for it, or what have you. But again, price wasn't the issue, it's budget. They don't have the available funds. So I addressed that in the copy too. I said, don't let finances stop you. Don't let that get in your way. I said, you may qualify for our plan that's our Roof Now, Pay Later plan. And again, that's something new. It's curiosity. They've never heard of it. Chances are they're going to pick up the phone to see if they qualify, because I'm telling them, call to see if you qualify for the Roof Now, Pay Later program. Again, that's very appealing to them because they know they need it. They don't want the inconvenience of having a problem. And that was another thing I did that was very different. Instead of going to the benefits, because in this particular thing, I couldn't find a lot of benefits, to the roof, other than the fact it's not going to leak. So what I did was I did a reverse benefit. And I basically stacked and three-dimensionalized the consequences. So it was kind of a different approach. And, again, I haven't seen this done, but I think it's going to be very effective. And I basically three-dimensionalized the consequences of what's going to happen, and I walked them through it, the whole thing about hear it, see it, feel it. The whole see it is, this is what's going to happen when the roof goes in. Your tenants get all of their materials wet. They get damaged. I go, imagine what you're going to feel like when you have to relocate those tenants temporarily while you're doing water damage and mold abatement. Imagine the inconvenience. Imagine the cost. Again, I'm stacking the consequences because I couldn't find where the benefits were. So I just turned it the opposite direction and I attacked the consequences. Again, I was going on the fear and greed. Basically the greed of loss of money and the fear also of loss of money. So anyway, that was something. And again, when we move to the next step, when we get in, and I think a lot of you guys are getting really close, if you're not there already, to the creation portion, I cannot stress enough how important it is really to get that analysis done and really understand the emotions and the beliefs of your prospects before you start writing that copy. A copy is going to be really hard if you don't have that stuff. If you have it all there, it's going to make it easy. Like when I was writing a copy for this, the stuff was just appearing almost, I don't want to say magically, but it almost was appearing magically what I was going to write about, because it was all right there. What their concerns were, what their issues were, how they even came about, from previous client experience, and it made it very easy. It could have been a very torturous process, but it wasn't. So if are you guys interested in getting a copy of that just so you can have it and see it? Yeah. Let me see here.
I have a question.
Okay, you're very muffled there. Can you get a little closer to the speaker?
I'll turn the fan off.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can
Can you hear me better now?
There you go. The closer you are, the better it is.
Yeah, it was the fan. The heat's getting to me.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. It's a hot August here.
Definitely. When you're talking about, the analysis and the past experience,
Uh-huh.
where do we, when we're going through the notebook and we're putting all that stuff in, where do we kind of collate that information of knowing the market and putting that, where's a good place to, because it's their subjective experience or their actual documented experience based on their business. But where do you kind of document that with regards to when we're putting information into the notebook to know where to pull it out?
You could put that in notes. Like if you have previous experience with clients, some of you are going to be working in new niches where you really haven't been before, and you won't have that. But like these guys, they've been in business doing roofs since, the 80s. So when you are working with a client or it's you that's actually been in business like that, when it comes time to do your ideal client, you already know who that is. So you're really documenting based on experience. It's when you have not been in there and you don't have that experience, some of it's going to be intuitive. It's like, who do you think you want to work with? What about that is going to make them your ideal client? So it's just, it depends on what your experience level is in the market, how intuitive that's going to be versus how experiential it's going to be. It's obviously better if you have true experience and you've actually worked with your ideal clients and you know who they are. You should know a lot about them just in thinking back about how everything worked with them. It's the same thing like with the roofers when I was asking those questions and telling them to document all that stuff for me. I said, where did they come from? Your ideal clients, how did they find you? Where did they come from? And they basically put down a lot of them had come because they did a small thing for them in the past. It was like they did a small repair. And here's another thing they had told me in the beginning. They said they don't want to do repair. And when I found out that most of their projects come from past repair, I'm like, that's kind of your loss leader. That's kind of like your lead magnet almost. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today was a client ascension, how you bring clients into your world and what you do with them. So I said, it's not a good idea for you to cut that part out, even though you don't like it, because that's part of what gets you the business down the line. When we talk about a marketing funnel, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. I have a diagram basically for client ascension, and I'll kind of walk you through that. But that's part of the whole experience of working with any customer is it's not just a one-shot deal. I don't want you guys to think in terms of, you acquire a customer and that's the end of the road. You make them one sale and it's a one-hit wonder. That's not how businesses profit. Client acquisition should only be your first piece. So they definitely want to make sure that you guys get that. So in the chat, I'm going to see if I can doesn't look like I can put a link in there. So what I'll do, I will email you guys the Word document that I've got here that I did on that roofer, so you guys have it. And then if you have any questions or anything, you can shoot them over to me later. But let's move to that next step here and get my client ascension deal up here. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you. Give me just a second here. Okay. So can you guys see the screen here now? Okay, so I just kind of whipped this up in PowerPoint because it makes it easy to make it graphical. At the top, this is kind of like a reverse funnel. At the top, you have your biggest area. This is where you start. This is where all your lead magnets are. This is where all your advertisements point to. And really, your first thing is just to generate leads. You might be selling like a very low dollar item here, or you may be giving it away for free. But this is where the majority of your activity is going to go on, is in this lead generation portion. And I've got just a $1 sign there, so that's kind of low. That's going to be low dollar, if any. You know, you might be operating free there. When you get to client acquisition, obviously you're going to get more leads than you are clients. That's going to be your conversion ratio, whatever that may be, and that's a smaller amount. A lot of times when you do customer acquisition, you're selling them your lowest end item. Typically, that's what's going to happen. It doesn't happen always. You know, sometimes you'll sell them into a higher end program to begin with, and then you'll send them to a lower end item. Like in my case, a lot of times I'll be selling them into a training program that is actually higher. It's going to be anywhere from like $497 to $1997. And then I'm going to take them to a lower offer in my recurring. Now, some people, it's the other way around. They bring them in low, and then they get them into recurring, and then they make more money. Mine just happens to be flip-flopped, and it doesn't matter how you do it, but the whole key here is that you move them through. It's an ascension. You want to move them through to the higher items. So client acquisition, that's going to be your biggest portion under lead generation. Of your clients that come in, a percentage of them are going to go into recurring. You know, hopefully you've got something that is recurring. If you don't, then you might think about dropping them into an automatic drip sequence that will give them affiliate offers. And at that point, you've got recurring income, and you don't even have to fulfill on it. You just have to know what they need and then drop them into that sequence. Now, we've got upsell. Typically, what you'll do is you'll have some version of whatever you do that's a higher value. You know, it's a higher level. Most people that get involved with you, they want more. They want more attention. They want more service. They want more of whatever it is that you gave them to begin with. So you'll take them into that upsell, and then ultimately you might have, you know, a high ticket item where maybe you're just doing whatever it is for them. You know, and again, every business is going to be different. There's a lot of variation to this, but the whole idea behind this, the concept is you don't just sell them one thing one time. I see so many people that they start up an info product business, and they don't think it through. They just have one thing, and they think that's a business. And really, that's just a one-shot deal. And that's really not the way. Most of your profit is coming down here. It's generally not up in this section. It's as you go through. So make sure that there is a way to sell people more than just your beginning sale. You know, like a supermarket. Think about the way retail works, you know, and you guys have all been exposed to this your entire life. You'll see an ad, whether it be for groceries or whatever, but they're leading you in with low dollar items. A lot of times they'll use a loss leader. They'll sell you something for less than it actually even costs them, just to get you in the door, knowing you're going to buy a bunch of other stuff. You know, how many times have you seen an ad, like for instance, this is the one that gets me. When I see ribeye steaks for $4.99 a pound, like, I'm in. I want a 2-pounder. I'm going in for it. And what happens? I go in for the $4.99 steak and I come out with $200 worth of groceries. They got me on every turn, on every aisle. But they got me in. They led me in with that one thing. So again, that's their client ascension. And they do it in one visit. And then you're hooked. You get used to the store. You get used to going into that store because they did that one thing for you. So they've built rapport. So that's your whole thing. And what's different about you, if that was your store, you want to bring me into your store instead of the other 10 that are on the same street. So that's how they do it. They get you in, and then they build that value. They take care of you, all of that. So think about that. Think about in your business, and I know a lot of you don't have that. Like, for instance, I was just working with Cheryl this week on that, and I'm like, what happens after they buy the product? And she's like, well, I don't know yet. But I'm like, okay, well, let's think about what all that you offer, and let's make a sequence. Let's make an ascension for that. And it was like, when she saw that on paper, she's like, wow, I could really make money at this. And the light bulb kind of went on. And that's what it's all about. You've got to think about the business, not necessarily the product. The product is just it's a tactic of an overall strategy. Again, strategy is the whole foundation for everything in business. So your strategy should be to make as much money off of each customer that you bring in over the lifetime. I talk about lifetime value. You have to know what's the lifetime value of your customer. And it doesn't matter how much you make on the first sale. If you look at the Agura model, they have almost $1 billion business, and they lose money on every sale in the client acquisition mode. They actually lose money. They will pay 6 months worth to acquire a customer because they know they're going to take them through this client ascension. And they know by the time they get 6 months in, they're going to be profitable, and then they're going to be wildly profitable. If they didn't know the customer value, they would never be able to roll the dice on that. And to me, it's not even rolling the dice. It's not even a gamble. It's arithmetic. If you know how much your clients are worth and you know the time frame in which you're going to collect the money from them because you've got a strategy and you're taking them through, you know exactly how much you can spend up here to get the leads to acquire the customers. That's where the math comes in. And I've talked about this for a long time, and I'm hoping everyone is getting it. But that is really where you can take this and turn it into a formula, and you can say, how much money do I want? When you know how much the value of the client is, and you know how much it costs to get the leads, and you know your conversion ratio, that will tell you how much it costs to acquire the customer. And then you know by the time you acquire that customer, you know how much you're gonna make by the time they get down here. Then you have the formula to literally make as much money as you want, and there's nothing that will get in your way. When you get those numbers figured out and those are plugged into your business, that's your key to freedom. That's your key to financial freedom. It's all in the math. The math won't change. 1 + 1 is going to be 2 today, tomorrow, and 50 years from now. The only thing that might change along the way is, times change, people's needs change. That you have to be in tune with in your business. Again, that's strategy. Keeping on top of your customers. As your customers are going through this, it's a good idea to poll them and find out their experience and learn from them. They will tell you what they want as they're going through here. If you do a simple survey as your customers are going through your process, let them tell you. Be open to hearing what they have to say. What do they want? What do they want more help with? What do they want next? And that is your key to building more products. That's your key to filling this funnel up. If you give them what they want, you'll be wildly successful. That is like, have any of you guys seen Ryan Levesque's Ask method? That's what it is. It's a very simple thing. It's another tactic to a business. He's adding a tactic that is incredibly smooth the way he does it, and it's incredibly effective, the outcome of it, because really all he's doing is he's just asking customers. Now, a lot of people bought that program. A lot of people bought the Ask Method program thinking that it was going to be the answer to their prayers. And it's not. It's a tactic to an overall strategy. If your business isn't up and running and you don't have customers, you don't have anybody to ask, how effective is the Ask Method going to be? You know, again, it's a tool that used at the right place is very effective. But the ACT strategy, the ACT marketing formula, it's the whole thing. It's the basis for your entire business. It is the strategy. It is the backbone of everything, and it basically dictates what you need, when you need it, where you need it. So that's kind of the difference between, you know, the whole ACT program and all of these other little things that you can buy along the way. They're all tactics. You need to get your strategy kind of dialed in. And I cannot stress enough, you know, this is an analysis call. Analysis should be a huge part of your strategy. And even the Ask Method, again, that falls under analysis. That's gathering information so you know what your customers want, so you can go and create either products or you can create better sales copy. Like how much more effective do you think you would be if you did a survey when people came in and you acquired them as a customer? They're very open at this point. When you acquire a customer, there's never going to be a time when they're more open to communicating with you, is right then. You know, the other time is once they've achieved their goal and your product has delivered their desired outcome. Those are two key points when you can put out these surveys and find out. Like in the beginning, a survey that's in this section right here that would be very important and beneficial to me is knowing why they went with me. Why did you choose this service over all the others? If I can get that, I'm understanding their psyche. I'm understanding what it was that was appealing. And I can also ask them, was there anything that almost made you not go with me? That would be really important. Because if there was, I can change it. So I can change the experience for all the rest that are coming through. I got some feedback on that actually openly when I was at Notre Dame doing my speech there. I had a guy come up to me and he goes, I was really turned off by your intro. He says, I almost just kind of disregarded you and left the conference, because one of the things was, I wasn't aware of this, but they do intros before you come up to speak. And they asked me for a bio, and I gave them my bio. And they actually used my whole bio for the intro. So it went on for quite a while. And you know, had I known that, I would have re-engineered it and given them, you know, a much shorter version. But that's what he gave me. He gave me that feedback of I was really turned off by, you know, by having to listen to your bio. He said, but when you started to speak, he goes, you had me at hello. So, you know, just knowing that is important. So if I could have provided that kind of experience right from the beginning, he would have had, you know, he would have just been in heaven from the get-go. And that's what you want. That's what you want for your clients and your prospects and your customers. So getting that feedback from them, there's nothing better than that, because remember I said in the beginning of this, if you're going through and you haven't got the experience from the market, the faster you can get that market experience and get their feedback, the faster you will increase, the faster you will scale. Because when you get to the other end of this and we get to traffic, the first time you run traffic, it's just going to be about getting your baseline numbers. And after that, it's going to be about scaling. So in scaling, there's a lot of different ways to scale. One of the ways to scale is doing split tests and figuring out what's going to be better, what's going to convert better. And I guarantee you there's nothing that's going to tell you more about that than getting feedback. That feedback is going to be an incredible value when it comes time to that scaling process, and we're trying to figure out, okay, what ad draws more? You know, what landing page draws more? What images appeal better? All that stuff is going to come into increasing those numbers. You know, up here, if you can do a break even right out of the gate, that is a huge thumbs up. Because if you can break even out of the gate, I guarantee you we can go profitable with a few moves, a few different tweaks, and we can get you profitable right out of the gate. We've got one customer now, they're doing, they basically do they start off with speaker training. You know, they're teaching people how to be speakers, and they've got, you know, they're selling books on it, all this kind of stuff. When they started off, they were negative. They were going negative to acquire customers. And within about, I think it was about 3 months of tweaks in the traffic, we now have them up to where every $1 in, they're getting $3 out. That's in client acquisition. So they're being paid to acquire customers that they have an enormous back end on. Basically, this is one of the funnels that has already made over $1 million. So, and it just took, you know, it took like 3 months of that tweaking to get them scalable to where their numbers actually worked out and they were highly profitable on the front end. So getting that feedback going to be really important. And it kind of cycles back to analysis. You know, this is like, you know, the analysis, creation, and traffic. It's a cyclical thing. You guys are learning it right now for the first time, so I'm keeping you one step at a time. But once you get this under your belt and you have a full understanding of it and it's working, you have a working knowledge of it, it's going to be cyclical. When you get to traffic, you're going to collect data, you're going to go back to analysis, you're going to go back to creation, you're going to go back to traffic. That's how you sharpen your sword. So it always comes back to analysis. You're going to be looking at the results of your traffic, analyzing them, and then coming back and recreating. So it always goes in that order: analysis, creation, traffic. You can't do creation based on just wild ass guesses. If you do, your traffic's going to wind up costing you a lot of money, and you're probably going to have a lot of pain involved in scaling, if you can scale at all. But that's the whole idea of why we do the analysis and then the creation before the traffic, is so we can get it as close to right the first time as we can. You don't always get profitable on your first round of traffic. And I know some of you have already experienced that. You've already, you know, sent traffic to pages that weren't ready, and you've already experienced what I'm talking about there. So the idea of, you know, get it right. Let's get it as close as we can when you run that traffic, and then we take it back to analysis. We look at the numbers. Look at, okay, what feedback do we know? What do we know now that we didn't know then? What can we go back to creation and tweak, and then run the traffic again? So anyway, questions about that? I know I've kind of been going on here for quite some time. Is this all clear? You guys kind of got the idea of this client ascension? I think that, you know, from talking to several of you, I don't think that came through the first time on the training. A lot of people were like in that mode of, well, I have this one thing, but you weren't thinking to the next step. And that is part of the whole strategy. You should always be thinking about, what else do my clients want? What else will they need? Once I get them in here, where can we go from there? And I've used the analogy of the maternity dress a lot, of, you know, the whole idea of you don't have to make money on the front end item. If you've got an 18-year sales funnel, there's plenty of money to be made on the back end. Here's the other thing about how to figure that out. And this again is part of analysis, is the timeline. When you look at the timeline, you're looking at where is my prospect today and where do they want to be? What is their desired outcome? And how do we get them there? So when you're creating your lead magnets, that timeline is very important, because the best lead magnet that you could possibly create is the one that takes them on the first step from wherever they are to wherever they want to be. That first step is very important. That first step is where you're going to create some beliefs in them. You're going to create the belief that they can do it because they made that first step and you were the one that took them there. So that's...
So John, I actually have a question. This is Jim Butts.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I like the idea of you were talking about going through the funnel, and you said, like, a client acquisition, that's a great time to ask a survey question about why did you go with me?
Uh-huh.
I'm also very cognizant of never making a decision on a data point of one.
Oh, yes.
Do you have any idea about, especially if you're starting out, you only get a few things coming in, how do you make a decision about what's not a data point of one? Do you need to hear it 2 or 3 times or what?
Sure. It depends on what it is that I'm hearing.
Okay.
And that could be intuition. Like if I hear something that the light bulb actually goes on with me and I say, oh my God, why didn't I think about that? Then I might take that data point of one. So it really depends. Like, you are absolutely right, though. You can't be everything to everybody. That's where that data point of one can get dangerous. If you have 10 people that give you 10 things and they're all totally different and they're not in alignment with where you want to go, you might have to start deciding, yeah, okay, I hear you, but that's as far as it goes. If it's not in alignment with your overall strategy, that's where I might discard those one-off opinions.
Okay, thanks.
Because, you know, like, everybody's going to have opinions. I'm sure you've heard some doozies in you know, in your experience.
Yes.
Yeah, because we all have.
Yeah.
But that is right. Be careful, you know, when you are listening to the market, and use common sense. If it's in alignment with you and it resonates with you, then I have no problem taking a data point one. It's where it's like, you know, if somebody says something and I have to question it, I wouldn't do anything about it until maybe I heard it, you know, 3, 4, 5 times. And also another thing, it's who tells me. Who tells me makes a lot of difference too. Sure. If it's somebody that I know has experience in that, then, you know, it's almost like I have a built-in Google algorithm on how I'm going to score that. and it's one of those things that, you know, it might be very complex.
All right. Well, thanks, John.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great point. And any of you guys, if you've got anything, you know, feel free to, you know, hop out on the line. Don't be afraid to. Don't think you've got to wait or whatever. If you need me to go a different direction, if you're having trouble with anything, let me know. That's, you know, that's what these are for. Is there, let's see, let me get rid of this. I don't think, are you guys done with this, this image here? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get back. Okay, so we're all back in. Okay, let me I've got a couple of questions here. Okay. Okay, so here's one. Ted's talking about adding, parts into the workbook where we can extrapolate that information. Now, here's a perfect example of a data part 1. I'm in complete agreement with that. I don't need to have 10 people tell me that to say, hey, that's a great idea. That would help the program. So, that's just an example of where that data point 1 I'll go with. So, all right. So, who has something, that's from analysis that you're actually stuck on? Has anybody had any trouble with the process? Because here again, I'm looking for your feedback so I can improve the program. I really want to cover all the bases and make sure that everybody is able to do this and gets the most out of it.
I think that, I heard Gay talking to Kurt before you came on, and she brought up how a lot of it is intuitive with the analysis. And I think that I get a little bit, I don't know if hooked is the right word, but the importance of doing the analysis and doing the research, but yet it's intuitive, kind of seems contradictory to me in some ways, because I intuitively thought I knew my customer, which is why I did the things I did, and I didn't. It wasn't correct. So I think that in my mind, I'm kind of like, is this my intuition, or is this the factual part, and how do you merge the two together? Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. In some cases, all you're going to have is your intuition. So, it doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. That's why I give so many different ways to try and verify, because a lot of analysis is verifying what you're thinking. Like if you think, hey, everybody wants this thing, whatever it may be, and then you go to Google and you do keyword research and you find out, well, nobody's searching for that. So that that doesn't validate what you thought. If you think everybody knows this and they don't, that's going to alter a lot of things in the program. It doesn't mean the market's not there. What it might mean is that they're just not aware of it. So, you might want to search deeper. You might want to do deeper research and find out, how many people have this problem. And, you might be able to get that from clinical studies or something, or, you might be able to get it from different data sources. They might be able to tell you. And your intuition might be, a lot more people have this problem than know about it, and that's where in creation you would target them in the unaware state. You would run ads to make them aware of it. Like Perry Belcher, he did an absolute phenomenal campaign for people that bite their nails, and it was an unaware campaign. He went after reticularly activating them to a problem that they had that they were not aware of. And then he followed it up, and he knew, they're not aware of the problem. I'm going to make them aware of the problem the first time. And the problem isn't really that big a thing. It's not like they're going to be on the edge of a cliff and they're going to want to really get away from that cliff to make sure they don't go over. It's not like if they keep biting their nails, it's not going to be the end of their life. But what he did, he followed it up with an email campaign of every week for like 9 weeks. He would send them another email, and all it said was, "Still biting your nails?" ? And he just kept poking at them. And he said it was like the 7th to 9th time when most people actually bought. But he had to poke them that many times with the same thing after they were aware of the problem before they finally just said, all right, for $7, I'm going to stop biting my nails. How do I do it? And he sold a boatload of those. And it just, it led them in. And this is something I was kind of getting to and I lost track, was that timeline. When you start people out on your timeline, they're in one point and you're trying to take them to another point. And that first step is the best lead magnet you could possibly do to get them there. But here's the thing, when they buy your product and you deliver the results and you've transformed them, whatever it may be, you've taken them from where they were to where they want to be. Now, is their timeline done, or is that the end? No, that just starts a new timeline. You guys all know how many of us have ever wanted something, and then when we got it, we realized, oh, we want something more. We're human beings. We're never going to be happy. If we get $1 million, what's the next thing we're going to want? We're going to want $2 million. We want some cookies, right? What do we want? Milk. We're always going to want the next thing. And as soon as we get to the end of the timeline, guess what? It changes. We've got the cookies. All right, problem solved. I got my cookies. Now what? I have a new problem. I know I'm going to need some milk with these cookies. And that's the beauty in understanding that timeline and how it transitions. That's the key to future sales. That's
hey, John.
The absolute key. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, you wanted some feedback on analysis. For whatever reason, analysis is like painful to me. Like I every inch of me wants to go and jump into traffic. And even when I'm doing analysis, oftentimes my brain goes into which categories on Facebook can I target based on what I'm thinking might be my ideal client. So it's I don't know, the way I'm wired is like it's hard for me to really stay focused on analysis. I'm working on it, and I actually finally set up my mentor here, and I'm going through the correct process now. But
awesome.
It's been it's challenging for me to focus on this for whatever reason. I don't know if that's anyone else's experience here, but
yeah, no, actually, with that one, I can tell you from experience, you are not alone. You are in a lot of good company because even myself, it is the most painful of all for anybody, and anybody I've ever talked to. The thing is, if you skip it, if you look at the guys that are really successful, they're doing it intuitively because they went through the pain process. They learned it, they understand it, and now it's coming a lot more natural to them. And it's the same thing. Like when you get through this and you get your first success, and then you come back and you do it again, it's going to be a whole lot easier the second time. And after you go through the process and you've cycled, you're going to cycle through ACT even with your first product, whatever that may be. I think you're doing the LinkedIn thing, right?
I'm focusing on the LinkedIn thing, yeah.
Yeah, so when you run ACT and you do your analysis and you create your first campaign and you run traffic, what that's going to do is that's going to give you your baseline numbers, and then the first thing you're going to do to sharpen that sword is you're going to go back to analysis. You're going to analyze your results. You're going to look at, okay, what else can I learn? How can I get higher conversion? What do I know now that I didn't know then? And then you're going to go back to creation. Then you're going to go back to traffic, and it's going to do this. Like I said earlier, it's cyclical. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And at some point, this is really the only saving grace to this, because I know you hate it. I know we all do. The saving grace to it is it's going to become automatic at some point. And it's not going to be near as painful as it is, and you're not going to have to go back through all the steps. You're not going to say, oh, well, I have to go back through this 30-step process to do my analysis, because it's going to become so intuitive to you.
Cool. Well, that's helpful and good to hear. So I'm glad that other people in the past have expressed similar sentiment. So
yeah, like I know a lot of you in the going through the program, like Cheryl. I know Cheryl has experienced this with me. Is she's like, you know, she'll see me do this on the fly. And she's like, all right, how in the hell did you get from here to there? And it's nothing more than I have been through that pain so many times for so many years that I'm to that point where it's just the way I think now. And it doesn't take long. Now that you guys actually have it way easier than I did. I didn't have anybody that laid all the pieces out for me. And you can imagine without a system to figure all this out, how painful that would be. That's, you know, I mean, I spent 30 years in working in the ad business and watching, you know, the creative directors, and I never knew how they were coming up with this stuff. I just watched them and it looked like magic. You know, it's kind of like probably like Cheryl saw me do it and it looked like magic to her. And, you know, might have looked like voodoo. I don't know.
Well,
but it's not. It's just experience. That's it.
If you don't do it, and if you don't watch the videos, and then you try to put together a campaign, John's going to know you didn't watch the videos because he's going to look at your project and say, and I just heard him say this from something in the past where he said, I knew that they weren't listening to what I was saying or, you know, recommending to them. He'll know if you do some copy and you haven't watched those videos, it's going to be apparent. And he'll say, start over. So you've just really kind of wasted your time by not doing it from the very beginning. So if you guys aren't in that process, like I've gone through the videos now 3 times because I've changed from an avatar to a symptom. So I have watched the videos 3 times plus transcribed. And every time I watch it, I pick up something different. So if you're not doing that, it's going to show. And I mean, honestly, it's not going to help you in the long run. So just my 2 bits about that, how important it really is to watch them and apply what he's saying.
Yeah, and you know, when it comes down to that whole experience thing, like imagine how stuck I would have been when I was trying to write that sales letter for the roofing guys if I didn't know. Like if I just thought, if I didn't have the experience and I thought, well, I just have to stick to the benefits. And I didn't realize I could reverse that. And instead of creating 3-dimensional benefits, I could create, you know, 3-dimensional ramifications. If I didn't know, you know, and I'd never even thought about that before I did that yesterday. I just realized, you know, I'm having trouble. There's no benefits here, but there are a lot of things that could happen. There are a lot of, you know, a lot of ramifications to this if you don't do it. So I just thought, well, what if I just do the same process and I just reverse it out and I go for that and I make them feel that. This is the same thing. It's you hear it, see it, feel it. I can take them to a fear factor by just reversing the benefits.
You're focusing on their away-driven desires.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, and that's the way I do stuff. I'm like lightning. I'll take the path of least resistance. You know, if I come up against something, I'm just going to shift gears because I was told from a very early age, if you're doing something and it's difficult, you're probably not doing it right. And I look at a lot of things that way. If it's difficult, the first thing that goes off in my head is there's got to be a better way. And sometimes it's just a shift one step to the side. And that's like when I was writing that letter, I spent about 2 hours writing that sales letter. And I spent about 3 minutes at the point where I was hitting that wall of, well, you know, what the hell are the benefits? and it only took me about 3 minutes to shift gears and go, if I don't have benefits, what have I got? And I went with that. So it was like I didn't dwell on it. I didn't get stuck there. I didn't allow myself to just stop and be done. And I'm like, I got like a minimum time frame here. I got like a couple hours to work with. I don't have the luxury of being stuck. So I just shifted to whatever I had at my disposal. And another thing that this is like one of the most brilliant comments I've ever heard out of somebody, and it was a lifelong motto of a gentleman that's no longer with us. And he was a really, really smart inventor. And one of the things he said is, whenever there's a problem, the solution is in the room with you. He said, whatever the problem is, the solution is always in the room with you. And, almost every time I've ever been up against a problem, I've always found the solution was in the room with me. So that might be a hard one to get your head around, but when you get it, you're going to go, holy shit, that's powerful. But it is. You look around and you'll see the solutions right there somewhere. Might be just you coming up with it. Might be just the thought process, but generally it's whatever it is. It's always with you. So, at the risk of sounding a little Jedi, that's all. I'll leave you with that. I don't want to go too far off the reservations. So, all right, other stuff. One thing I wanted to tell you guys too, I'm working with a new program. Forget the name of it escapes me right now, but it's a survey program. There, it brought it right back for me. Survey, survey.com. And that's Jimena Cortez. She's done a lot of LinkedIn stuff. She found that one of the biggest ways that she was getting prospects through LinkedIn was by doing surveys and surveying people and then sending them right from the survey to a scheduler to schedule an appointment with her. Like, she would do survey questions, and then for you to get the outcome or the results of the survey, you would have to schedule the appointment. So she put a program together that's a combination of a scheduler and a survey program, and she gave me a copy of it to play around with. I'm going to see if I can get, she's got a white label version of it, and I asked her, if I get a white label version of it, do I have to sell it or can I give it away? So I might be able to get that and then be able to give it to all the ACT members to use. So I'm working on that. So if I can get a hold of that, if I can get that, I'll get that for everybody. But it looks like a pretty cool program, and it's all tied together in a nice little bundle. So that's one of the things I have not got around to playing with yet.
Are you going to set a survey out to your ACT participants to see where they're stumped, where they need help, how it's going?
Yeah, that actually might be the first time I play around with it and use it. I might test it on you guys and then you can give me feedback and see what you think of it.
How are you feeling about a work day where we can come and kick out some stuff on our programs? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's. I think I'll use that as a bonus to the survey. But yeah, I do plan on doing that probably sometime within the next couple of weeks. We'll do a thing where, we'll just anybody that's got a funnel in place or is like ready to do creation, we're ready to create. We're ready to play. The creation part is actually pretty fun. When you get into the copy and you get it right and you start getting in the flow, that's where you're going to find the shift from the frustration of analysis, which I know you all have, to the fun of creation. Because when you create, that's where we're getting ready to drive traffic. That's where the kind of the excitement comes in. When you write up a sales letter and you're excited about it and you think, wow, I would buy this from this copy, you're going to start feeling a whole new level of excitement. And then when you drive traffic to it, I guarantee you when you get that first sale, you get that first email that says you've made a sale and you got money in your account, that's going to change things for you. That's going to, you know, even if you're at a loss, it's still going to change things for you. When you see that email land in your box, I guarantee you that's going to be the first step to the rest of your life. That's going to be the changing point. You know, to me now it just doesn't really excite me anymore. But I gotta tell you, man, the first few years when I would get those, it was just like put you on cloud 9. Now what gets me excited is when I do a webinar. When I do a webinar, this is like, you know, I've just kind of moved up in the ascension of all this. When I do a webinar and the webinar lands, let's say more than about $30,000 from a 1-hour webinar, that's when I get excited now. And, you know, if I send out an email, like, you know, sometimes I'll send out an email that's an affiliate offer. And, you know, when I can make 5 figures, when I can make more than $10,000 on one email blast, that gets me excited. So, you know, that's the next thing for you. As you build your list, when your list starts to grow, you're going to come in tune with opportunities. They are going to start presenting themselves to you, and then you present the opportunity to the list, and you'll have the same experience. You know, they all say the money is in the list, and that's true, but the money is in the segmentation of the list. It's bringing the right offer to the right list. That's really where the magic happens. So I'm really, really excited to see you guys get to that point. And, you know, we're going into creation now. I think several of you, quite a few of you, are in that mode now. So it should be getting a little more exciting. So, another thing I wanted to tell you before we cut out, I'm actually working with our new Done For You team. I've really got a new Done For You team in place that can actually do the funnels. These are the guys I've been talking about. They've got $2 million funnels through Russell Brunson's 2 Comma Club, and they are my new back end for Done For You. And I'm really excited because they've got me scheduled in for Tuesday to knock out the rest of my funnel. You know, I've been kind of stuck at a couple of places, and I'm going to go on down there Tuesday, and we are going to knock it out and start sending traffic to it. So here's the big benefit for you guys. Once we get that funnel in place and we get the sword sharpened, we're going to know, we're going to have the numbers in place that if you send X amount of dollars to this funnel, you get X amount back. When we get that figured out, that whole system is going to get handed over to every one of you. So if you want to do the same thing, if you want to drive traffic to that funnel, you will have the ability to do that and make money with it. So we're, you know, once I get the money printing machine in my hands, it will be next in your hands. So that's going to be one of the huge benefits for all of you for being involved in this and sticking through it and all that. And I have spent a fair amount of money going through all this and putting all this together, and I'm going to drop another fair amount to get this funnel done, in place, and tested. You know, we're probably, once it gets to, we're thinking it's going to be profitable right out of the gate. And if that's the case, the first month I plan on spending about $20,000 in traffic to test it. So we will know, we'll have our numbers real quick. So pretty exciting stuff. If the 20 works, then we're going to 50. And I plan on scaling this up very, very quickly. So good stuff. Anything else? Anybody last call here for questions, comments?
Hey,
Anything?
John, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Gwen.
Do you have the previous calls from the Thursdays up posted somewhere?
Actually, I have not put them up yet. I do have them all archived. I just haven't loaded them up. I can do that, though. I can load those up into the Apprentice program, the Apprentice page.
Okay. That was just a question that was asked me, and I didn't have a good answer. So.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I have all the calls, and I just got to load them up. So I will do that.
And then here's my other thought. I did type it out on the questions, but your comment about if you got cookies, then you want milk. Isn't that desire for milk simply a marketing ploy?
It actually can be.
To be milk and cookies.
It actually can be a part of your marketing sequence. Now, for me, that's analysis. Analysis of the market tells me that, and actually is when I talk about analysis, this comes from experiential analysis. I know if I'm going to eat cookies, the first thing I'm going to want is milk. So knowing that analysis, taking that into creation and putting that into the funnel, how effective would that be? Knowing that, okay, I went from my timeline of wanting cookies to having cookies, and now I'm at a new timeline. Now I want milk. Now I have milk. So what am I going to need next? So yeah, it's all strategy. It's all just sequencing of your business.
Ted's selling you a couch next.
A couch to eat my cookies and milk on, and then a TV to watch movies while I'm eating my cookies and milk. Yeah.
Hey, John, how are people doing with Basecamp? Is the team using it?
A lot of people are using it. Yeah. Yeah. There's a few people that haven't done anything with it. And, it's not a requirement. It's basically, if you're working with an accountability coach, it helps your accountability coach know where you're at. It's mostly an accountability thing. So some of us, there's quite a few people that still don't have an accountability coach yet. So, but I think the ones that have an accountability coach, I think the majority of them are using it. So, which it probably tells me if they're not using it, they may not have a program in mind yet, or they're still still trying to figure out and transition, and that's, it's fine. It'll be there when they're ready for it. It's always going to be there. So there's one thing, you cannot go wrong. Even if you don't have something to work on, you cannot go wrong learning this material and getting familiar with it. Because as soon as something does come along, if you know it, think how fast you can implement something. So it's, this is probably, one of the most valuable educations I could possibly think of that anyone can learn. All of this marketing stuff, this is all learned. There's no skills in this that we're born with. It's not, you don't have to be a natural athlete to do marketing. You just have to have the desire to learn the systems and learn how people think, and you can do this. You can be really good at it too. So it's a very prized skill, I'll tell you that. Sales, any kind of sales, salespeople make the majority of the money in the world. Money and sales go hand in hand. You can have the best products and services around, and if you don't have salespeople that know how to sell them, they're great products, and hopefully you're enjoying them because you're going to keep them to yourself. So, all right, last call. Anybody else? I'm going to wrap it up. I got to get ready for my interview on gods of the internet. That's pretty crazy what those guys come up with. Some of my family said, we have a superhero in the family now. They're
Love your caricature. Looks just like you.
I wish they would have made me Neptune. That would have been much more appropriate. I could have had the three-prong spear. Oh, well, they didn't do their analysis on me. That's the problem. They didn't figure out who I was. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close the recording out here.